All right, let's dive into a career that from the outside seems, I don't know, kind of glamorous. Jewelry and watches shop manager. You get to work with, luxury brands, stunning pieces.
Right.
But you've sent over some RoleCatcher guides, and I'm already sensing there's more to this than meets the eye.
Way more.
Hey.
Yeah, it's easy to get, I guess, swept up in the sparkle, but these guides really, I think, drive home the business savvy this job demands. It's not just about appreciating luxury, it's about understanding how to manage it.
It's funny you should put it that way because one guide specifically mentions creating a memorable customer experience, and I initially thought, okay, basic retail, but then it dives into sales targets, inventory control, feeling a bit less Pretty Woman montage now.
Right, and that's where those core abilities listed really hit home. Negotiation, persuasion, complex problem solving. We're talking about serious business skills here. This isn't just like a passion project. It's a high-stakes leadership role.
And speaking of high stakes, one thing the guide brings up that I hadn't considered, the impact of online shopping on this industry. I mean, it's not just about like walk-in clientele anymore.
Exactly, yeah. The guide specifically calls out things like point-of-sale systems and, get this, CRM tools.
Hmm.
So not only do you need to be tech-savvy, but you're also crafting personalized customer relationships using data. It's like,
Right.
who knew?
CRM tools, that sounds intense. So we're talking about tracking preferences, purchase history, that kind of thing, to really like tailor the experience for high-end clients.
You got it. And it makes sense when you think about it. Building those relationships is key in luxury retail, especially with those repeat customers who drive sales.
And I imagine it takes a certain kind of personality to handle all that pressure, dealing with, demanding clients, maybe even the occasional security risk, all while hitting those sales targets. Talk about a balancing act.
The guide uses the phrase emotional intelligence, which I think nails it. This isn't just about having an eye for a Cartier watch. It's about reading people, de-escalating tense situations, and keeping your cool under pressure.
It's interesting you should say that because the pros and cons section really caught my eye. The guide doesn't shy away from the long hours, the demanding clientele, that constant pressure to meet targets.
Transparency is key. Right. They showcase the potentially high earning potential and the chance to work with these incredible luxury items, but also acknowledge the realities of the job. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
Absolutely not. It paints this picture of someone who thrives on challenge, someone who's energized by that fast-paced environment, someone who maybe after a long day actually needs to unwind by looking at beautiful things.
And wouldn't you know it, the guide has advice for even that. It suggests attending industry events and trade shows, not just for networking, but to stay ahead of trends, to understand the market inside and out.
Oh, that's a good point. Because this world, especially luxury, is all about what's next. You can't just be knowledgeable, you have to be ahead of the curve. So it's not just about like loving the product, it's about immersing yourself in that whole ecosystem.
Precisely. And the guide lays out this path so clearly. It breaks down the typical career stages, starting from sales assistant all the way up to shop manager, highlighting the skills and responsibilities you'd gain at each level.
Almost like leveling up in a video game. But instead of collecting coins, you're mastering the art of luxury retail. And speaking of mastering, there's a section here called Career Stages that really caught my eye. It's like a roadmap for someone starting out in this world.
It really is like a
Yeah.
like a roadmap. Yeah, each stage includes these sample profiles, so you get to like peek into the career journey of a real person, see their typical day-to-day, even what their salary progression might look like. It makes it all feel much more kind of tangible.
Oh, that's so smart. Because it's one thing to say strong communication skills in a resume, right? It's another to see how a senior sales associate might use those skills to, say, close a high-value sale or handle a difficult customer.
Exactly. And speaking of landing the job, the interview prep section is like pure gold. These aren't your generic, tell me about your strengths questions either.
Don't tell me they're specific to the world of luxury watches and jewelry. Okay, hit me with one of those tough questions. Let's see if I've got what it takes.
How about this? How would you handle a situation where a customer is questioning the authenticity of a piece?
Wow, okay, so not only do you need that deep knowledge of brands and materials, but you also need the communication skills to confidently address those concerns. Talk about thinking on your feet.
Right. And the guide doesn't stop there. It goes beyond just nailing the interview, talking about building a portfolio, showcasing your knowledge of specific brands, maybe even design aesthetics or historical pieces.
Portfolio. So we're talking more than just a resume here, like visual examples of your expertise.
Absolutely. Think about it. If you were hiring for this role, Wouldn't you be more impressed by someone who can speak passionately about Patek Philippe's history or the craftsmanship of a Graf diamond?
100%. It shows they're not just there for a paycheck. They like live and breathe this world. It's like the difference between someone who sells art and someone who, understands the artist's soul. You know what I mean?
A perfect analogy.
Mhm.
And that's where attending those industry events comes in. Again, you're building your network, but you're also becoming a known expert.
Okay, so say someone's interested in this career path, but maybe they're coming from a different area of retail. Can they make that jump? Do those skills translate?
That's where the transferable skills section is so insightful. It explicitly lists out those skills that might seem obvious, customer service, sales, inventory management, but it also digs deeper.
Oh, give me an example. What's a skill that might not be so obvious?
Conflict resolution. Think about it whether you're managing a team in a fast food restaurant or de-escalating a situation with a high-end client who's unhappy with a repair. The ability to navigate conflict calmly and effectively is gold.
That's such a good point, and probably something that a lot of people don't even realize they're developing in other roles. So someone with experience in, say, a high-volume electronics store, they could have some seriously transferable skills.
Absolutely. And the guide even highlights adjacent career paths, just to get you thinking. For example, a medical goods shop manager. Now, you might think, what does that have to do with luxury watches? But when you break it down,
You're dealing with like high value inventory, potentially complex sales, building relationships with, clients. There's a lot of overlap.
exactly. Yeah, it's all about recognizing those core skills and how they can be applied in different settings. And the guide even, goes a step further, mentioning that a jewelry and watches shop manager might move into related fields like marketing or sales later in their career.
That makes a lot of sense,
Hmm.
especially because the guide emphasizes like understanding marketing strategies and driving sales growth as a core part of the job. It's not just about waiting for customers to come to you, right? It's about actively attracting them and creating a desire for these luxury items.
And that takes us back to something we touched on earlier, visual merchandising. The art of showcasing those pieces in a way that captures their beauty and value.
It's like staging a house, right? You want to highlight the best features, create an atmosphere, but in this case, you're selling a lifestyle, that feeling of luxury and exclusivity.
Precisely. And that requires a keen understanding of your target clientele. What are their tastes? What kind of experience are they looking for? A good shop manager anticipates those needs and curates the entire environment to meet them.
And let's not forget about the fact that these brands themselves are constantly evolving. New collections, collaborations, limited edition pieces. A good shop manager has to stay on top of all that.
It's like being a curator in a museum, constantly updating the exhibits to keep things, fresh and exciting.
That's such a great comparison. And it speaks to how dynamic this career path really is. It's not just about selling products, right? It's about creating an experience, telling a story.
And that story is always evolving,
Mm.
which makes me think about something the guide mentions,
Mm.
how luxury brands are increasingly embracing technology. We talked about CRM tools, but it goes even further, augmented reality, virtual try-on experiences.
Wow. So even in the world of like high-end jewelry and watches, technology is changing the game. A shop manager can't just be comfortable with traditional sales techniques. They need to be on the cutting edge of these digital trends.
Absolutely. They need to be able to kind of bridge that gap between the tangible luxury of the products and the digital world that customers are increasingly living in. It's a fascinating challenge.
It really is. We've covered a lot of ground here today. For someone listening who's now even more intrigued by this career, what's the one key takeaway you hope they walk away with?
Oh, that's easy. Don't let the sparkle fool you. This is a career that requires both passion and a sharp business mind. You need that deep appreciation for luxury, but also the drive, resilience, and adaptability to thrive in a fast-paced, ever-changing environment.
It's about so much more than just having good taste. It's about being a leader, a trendsetter, a storyteller, and a savvy business person, all rolled into one.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, there you have it, folks. A deep dive into the surprisingly multifaceted world of the jewelry and watches shop manager. We've gone from diamonds to digital trends, and it's clear this career path is anything but ordinary.
It's been a pleasure joining you today.
And for you listening, keep this in mind. We've talked about how important it is for shop managers to anticipate what's next in the world of luxury. So what trends do you see emerging? What innovations will shape the future of this industry? Keep those questions in mind as you explore this fascinating field. Until next time, happy learning.